Hey guys, Zoia from Tempo Storm here. Today I want to make a video talking about something that's very unique to Heroes of the Storm and how it could affect the competitive scene long term and the direction the game might be heading into eventually. I want to talk about how in other MOBAs such as League of Legends, you have a set role and a set hero list. When you're a top laner, you're going to play all the top laners, a few of the other carries or whatever, just because they can rotate in and out of top. But for the most part, you know what your set hero list is, and you can work on every game. But Heroes of the Storm is very different. There is no set role because the meta is always shifting. Take a look at instances where King Caffeine, for instance, plays Thrall because they run tankless compositions. Or take of comps where you have double, sometimes triple support in. This game, there is no set meta. There could be situations where we're actually starting to see where you have three melee assassins. Sometimes you'll be running a composition with Thrall, Sonya, and Zul or something. You could have an insane amount of melees. You could have multiple supports. You can have multiple warriors. Heroes of the Storm is not a game where you have a set hero list. You should be expected to play heroes from almost every single role. And that's where the complexity in this game comes in from an individual standpoint. And that's where I feel a lot of the teams in both North America and EU struggle right now. You'll have players who can only play very well 1 to 2 heroes from their role. For instance, a lot of range carries. That can be the best Vala in the world, right? They can be the best Jaina in the world, right? But when the meta shifts to triple melee, well, being the best Vala in the world doesn't matter anymore. And that's what I'm trying to see from a lot of teams, that they struggle in these metas. For instance, yesterday in the games we cast, me and Jhal, Naventic was running triple melee assassin, depending on how you consider Greymane. Big Impact plays him more like a melee. If they didn't have a roster that could run that composition because, Big E couldn't play ranged, or melee, or excuse me, Greymane, well, that's a terrible situation to be in, And in situations like that where you'll start seeing roster changes because of it. If the meta shifts, and if we find a period of time where we're in a 3-month span where triple support's the option, if you have no experience playing Uther and you're struggling to learn him, well, you're going to get replaced. And that's a very unique thing to Heroes of the Storm, that you just don't have a set hero list. I don't care if you're the best Kael'thas in the world. If you can't play Thrall when you need to play Thrall, you're a hindrance to your team, and you're going to cause your team to lose games. And that's what we're starting to see from a lot of teams, is not even just a small hero pool, but just not being versatile enough to play every single role. So that'll lead to two things. We'll always see roster shuffles whenever meta shifts to just kind of accommodate for those who can't play certain roles, or we'll get to a situation where you just have 5 fantastic players that can play every role, or we'll see what happened. I think it was Korea last year. It was Duck's team. I don't remember. I think it was like late 2014, early 2015. Duck's team. I don't remember the name of it. They had a 6-man roster for this very reason, to make sure they could play every single composition that they wanted to. And maybe that's a direction that Heroes of the Storm needs to take long term, that 5-man rosters won't work, because what if there's a situation where in the current meta, everything goes, anything can be played. 3 supports, tankless comps, quadruple melee assassins, anything. You don't know where Heroes meta is going to go. It's constantly changing, especially with how Blizzard balances the game. You never know what the meta is going to look like in 6 months, let alone a month from now. And you have to be prepared for that. And if you're a player who, again, you could be the best range carry in the world, but if you're not versatile enough to play warriors, if you're not versatile enough to play supports, you're going to fade out. And it just comes down to how teams want to approach this going forward. Do you replace that player who can only play range carries fantastically, or do you potentially pick up a 6th player and have a more flexible roster? And that's going to come down to both the organizations and the tournaments as well. Will tournaments be flexible enough to have a player get up mid-series and then have another player come in and change their settings real quick? That's not easy on the production side of things. So it's a really interesting point to be in. I look at most of the rosters in NA and EU, and I can point out 1 to 2 players on each team that can only play their role, and can only play a few heroes in the role at that. And as we're getting closer and closer to global competition being outscaled by the Koreans and the Chinese, those players are just going to eventually get weeded out. and it's really a really sad thing to be, because again, you could be so very good at your role, but if you're not flexible, I think eventually there's not going to be just a ranged carry on a team. All three of the damage dealers are going to be flex players. That's why we recently picked up Tomster for Tempo Storm. We already had a melee assassin. We have Goku. Well, Tomster now, we have two of them, because now we have two players that can play range flex as well as melee flex as well as warriors. That's something that we need to have. That's something every team is going to start needing to have, and eventually you're probably going to need three of those players on every team, because who knows what compositions are going to be required for you in Heroes of the Storm competitive play. So, I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are. If you're a player, if you're a community member, if you're just a viewer of Heroes, please leave your thoughts down below. I'm curious as to what the rest of you think, because I think this is the direction the game's headed in, and it's really interesting. It's really cool, because I don't know if you see this in too many other games where you just have to, you cannot be limited to your role. You have to be flexible. And so yeah, leave your comments down below, guys. Leave your comments in the Reddit thread if this does make it to Reddit, and let me know what you think, and I'll try and respond to what people's thoughts are. But thanks everyone for checking out this video. Head over to tempeststorm.com, check out all our guides. We have some new content there. Also subscribe to this YouTube channel, because myself, KO, Parkser, Goku, and Zix are all producing content. We're gonna get the new players producing content soon. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Let's talk about the current roster. KO, Goku, and Zix are all staying with the team. We are planning a big announcement that kind of got a little bit spoiled today, but Goku and Zix have both officially signed.